have a hard copy for him?
I'll look over it, Rich's.
Yeah.
Cheat off.
Keep your hands on the table, above the table.
Good evening, and welcome to the Monday, March 13th, 2023 Litchfield Board of Selectmen meeting. The board has just come out of a paperwork review. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kevin? That's for Kevin.
That's for Kevin?
I feel cheated. Where's our name tags?
It's,
The first items tonight, we have the review and approval of consent items. We have an account payroll manifest, March 7th, 2023, in the sum of $72,815.20. March 14th, 2023, in the sum of $77,373.46. We have a payroll manifest of March 9th, 2023, in the sum of $57,110.46. March 16th, 2023, in the sum of $61,680.56. We have the February 2023 tax collectors reconciliation. We have the February 2023 town clerk's reconciliation. We have the Eversource Avatar request for information, and we have a renewal application for the veterans tax credit. Are there any items members would like to have removed from consent? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. LaSalle's.
second.
Second by Mr. Lynch. All in favor, Mr. Leary.
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's.
Aye.
Mr. Lynch.
Aye.
Ms. Queenan.
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 5-0-0. Is there any other business members would like to add this evening? Hearing none, public input will occur no earlier than 6:45 PM. First item of business is the approval of the February 13th, 2023 minutes. We tabled those on February 27th for approval this evening. Do we have any comments or corrections?
Yeah, there was a couple of things that had to get changed on them,
And they did.
and they've been changed, I believe, right?
Yep.
I think the first one still says 600, though.
I do believe you are correct, because I looked at it earlier,
Mhm.
and, Mr. Leary, it was it 500, or
I thought it was 600.
was it?
For what?
For the minutes that we tabled at the
February
last one.
22nd, when there's only 3 of you actually present, so it can't be.
Yes, that was for the last minutes, yes. Yeah, correct.
And I believe it's page 2, so if
Okay.
Matt is listening, it was,
Yep.
I know that an email was sent to
Yeah,
him.
so the minutes from the 15th of February, there was a 6-0-0 vote.
Which
Which
is
is the one
impossible.
of the ones we tabled at the last meeting, when they were gonna change that. You
Yeah.
see that? That's under item E, business. Approved January 26 minutes, 6-0-0 motion carried.
And then also on page 3 of February 27th,
Mm-hmm,
it's at the top of the page, it says 500,
mm-hmm.
and only 3 of you were
And there was only
present.
3 of us here, you're correct.
Yeah. So that,
And that might have been my snafu that he wrote down, because remember, I originally said 5-0-0, that it passed, and then somebody corrected me, so. So, if those are fixed, then we can approve them.
Do you just want to approve as amended, or?
You should approve as amended, and go one by one, because not all of us were at all the meetings. I think we were all here for the 13th,
Yes.
the 22nd, but not the 27th.
Correct.
There's also on, item 3, proposal, the tax deeded property, that was also a 6-0-0 vote. So that needs to be fixed as well. Other than that, I got nothing.
What do you do all that?
All right, do we have a motion to approve February 13th, 2023 as amended?
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Leary,
Second.
second by Ms. Queenan. All in favor, Mr. Leary.
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's.
Aye.
Mr. Lynch.
Aye.
Ms. Queenan?
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 500. Do we have a motion to approve February 22nd, 2023 minutes as amended?
This is the
Three-member board. This is
public
when the three of us.
hearing?
Yep, the 22nd was the public hearing. We tabled that one also.
Mhm.
And I believe we were all in attendance that evening.
Yes, we were.
So, do we have to do those in two different?
Yeah, so we just approved the 13th. Now we should do the 22nd, and then we'll do the 27th.
Yeah, they have to be separate.
No, but I'm
We do it
saying
in-
the public hearing, should it be separated from the minutes?
I think the only thing we did that evening was the public hearing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, I see. Smart like a rock. I'll move we approve February 22nd.
Motion by Mr. LaSalle's,
Second.
second by Mr. Leary. All those in favor, Mr. Leary?
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's?
Aye.
Mr. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Queenan?
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 500. Do we have a motion to approve February 27th, 2023 as amended?
So move.
Motion by Mr. LaSalle's,
Second.
second by Ms. Queenan. All those in favor, Mr. Leary?
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's?
Aye.
Mr. Lynch?
I was not there.
Abstain. Ms. Queenan?
Aye.
I also abstain. Motion carries 302.
Yeah, from now on, just say abstain.
All right, next we have Ryan Polson, presentation of community power. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's always nice to stop by the town. My sister and her husband live just down the road by the high school, so get to stop by and visit, see my nephews and niece. So
Hopefully they cooked dinner for you and before you got here.
they offered, but they're 8, 3, and a couple months, so they've got their hands full. So.
So, you wanted to get out quick.
Exactly. I like being the fun uncle for now. So, again, thank you for having me. My name's Ryan Polson. I work for Standard Power. We are the Nashua Regional Planning Commission's energy consultant, and through them, also your energy consultant. We've helped them this last electric contract cycle. The town's been a member of their energy aggregation for many years. So this past and current contract that the town is in, we helped the Planning Commission put that together, and we'll be looking at, hopefully again shortly, for your next electric contract. We've been around since 2010. We're out of Nashua, so not very far. And a lot of our core business has been with schools and towns over the years, to the point where we work with about 70 schools and towns across the state. So that's not why I'm here not what I'm here to talk about. Community power is what I'm here to talk about, and that is a newer program that came about back in 2019. Got introduced into the legislature up in Concord and got approved. Governor signed it into law. We were interested. It's just another way to help our town customers. So we were very interested from day one, and we wanted to go do an alpha test with a community that was also interested in the program. We approached the Public Utilities Commission. They said, no, we're not, this isn't ready, we can't do it. And we approached some of the electric suppliers who would participate in this program, and they too said, no, this program's not ready. So it floundered for a while. Eversource introduced a kill bill to get rid of the program. It went back into the legislature, and in 2021, it got passed through the House and Senate, and the governor signed it into law again for a second time. This was back in August of 2021. The Public Utilities Commission has 60 days to then approve the law. And fast forward to October of 2022, and they finally finalized the rules of the program. So it's been a very long process for us to get to where we are. But we didn't do nothing. We've been working, as I said, right along since the beginning, and have been working with 12 communities so far to help develop their programs from the beginning stages to town meeting, which is right around the corner. So a little bit about what community power is. It's essentially a way for the town to group its residents together, similar to how the town has participated in a buying group of other towns and school districts. This would combine residential accounts to go out to bid for an electric contract. And that with the goal of providing multiple options, most being cost saving, but also having more renewable options for those who are interested. There's two kind of big factors into this program. One is market timing. So on slide 2 or page 2 of the packet, Eversource, your utility, purchases power 2 times a year. They purchase power in the end of December, roughly, and the end of June. And those are the 2 worst times of the year to buy power. It's usually the most expensive times of the year. And I'm sure you're no stranger to seeing what the rates have been this past year. 22.5 cents, and we're currently just over 20 cents. It's likely we'll see a reduction come August, but pretty extreme costs. And again, they only can buy 2 times a year. We are not subject to that, having to buy 2 times a year. We have the flexibility to time the market, make sure that when we're buying power, similar to the town's experience in the past, we time the market to make sure we're buying at the right time and getting the best rates we can. And then buying power, the other part to that, an individual resident can go out and sign up for a different electric supplier. I'm sure Direct Energy was a big one this past year. A lot of people were signing up with them, but there's plenty of these residential suppliers who will send you stuff in the mail. I'm sure you've all gotten it in the past, and you can sign up at this great rate for 5 months, 4 months. People forget, and then do nothing, the rate goes up. Community power is built to prevent that. It's one of many benefits, but and we'll get to that. There's another slide with those specifics. But as an individual, you can go out, like I said, to buy your own contract, but it's difficult to get a favorable rate on your own. So the concept of grouping all these residents together, you build that buying power to the extent where the town could essentially develop their program and price with another town that develops their program. To an extent, there's a point where the numbers don't matter anymore, but for a single community, but grouping the residents together does make a difference and does benefit the ratepayers. On the next page, we have a graph of one of Standard Power's previous energy groups of schools and towns. Prior to us working with the Nashua Planning Commission, we've been doing these school and town groups for a while. So you can see in that graph, the top line, the blue line is the Eversource default rate, and the orange line has been our buying group rate. And except for the little blip during COVID, we've been pretty good at saving our customers money, and we expect to continue to do that with community power. The program also allows for a bunch of different options that you can offer the community. we're an energy company, we're a renewable energy company. So if it makes sense to do a project in town, a solar project, we'll always encourage that. We'll always work with you to make sure you would be doing the best kind of project you could. Makes most sense financially, because at the end of the day, that's what matters most. Sometimes doing the biggest project doesn't mean it's the right project. Right now, with the way the market is and the cost of energy, yeah, you could probably do a big project and it would pencil out. But historically, it hasn't always been that way. So developing local projects in town, you could contribute to this overall program that you develop. And we'll get into a little bit of the specifics on the options in a minute, but on page 4, so some of those benefits I was talking about, you have that local control, the town and a committee. The select board would approve or appoint a community power committee. By law, you have to have a committee that we would hopefully work with to develop this plan. So you have that local control of knowing, okay, I know where my power is coming from. You're not getting it from some predatory company, like I said, who send out things in the mail and people might sign up and forget. So you have those consumer protections for protecting the residents. And as I was indicating before, implementing some local projects could be a part of this program, not necessarily from day one, but down the road. This program is built to incorporate future projects. And education and awareness, that's kind of a big thing. So from the day one developing the program to launch, and even after launch of the program, our job is to make sure, and depending on if the committee wants to continue as a committee afterwards, our job is to continue to educate the public, make sure that they know what's going on, know what they might be saving from this program. So that's very important, and just because the program launches doesn't mean that our job is done. I think I mentioned that we're working with 12 communities, all at various stages of their planning process. We just had some big news this past week where the first 4 towns in New Hampshire signed their contracts to launch their programs. So their programs will launch in June. We wish it was sooner, but there's timing between launching. You have to send out a postcard to all the residents so they can sign up. So there's a 40-day window after contracts are signed, something like that, before we can actually launch the program. But regardless, very exciting for us because we've put in a lot of work to this. So Keene, Wilton, Swansea, and Marlborough all launched this past week. We have 7 plans that are hopefully will be approved at their town meetings tomorrow, or some have been rescheduled already. To the 28th, I think. So hopefully by the end of the month, we'll have 7 additional towns that are ready to get into that pricing process, which is exciting. And we'll start working on and we already are, but then we'll focus on 2024 and the towns that have interest in launching next year. So some of the options of the plan, and all 12 of the communities so far have indicated that they've wanted 4 options to provide to their residents. And a lot of that data has come from surveys that we put out from the day one, or close to the beginning of development of the program. We want to get a sense of what the community wants. So we'll send out surveys through social media, local papers. We work with the committees to figure out what the best ways to reach the audience, the residents, what the best way to do that is. And we provide them with a list of questions from, do you care about green? Do you just want the cheapest rate? There's a whole variety, and all 12 communities so far have come back with pretty identical pie charts of, yes, you have probably about 25%, maybe a little less, 20%, that just want the cheapest rate that they can get. And that's fine. We understand that not everyone cares about renewables, and that's okay. We obviously hope that more people will, and with continued education, maybe down the road more people will care, but we realize that has to be an option. And then the large majority have all indicated they want some form of extra green in their power. So we've broken that down on page 5 to a basic default product for the plan that would include a little extra green, but still pay about the same or just under the default utility rate that you currently pay. So you have two options that we would expect to always beat the utility rate. And then there's options of being 50% or 100% green in your rate. With the understanding that you may pay more for that, but you're also becoming more green. So there has been that chunk of people who are okay with paying more to be more green, but the vast majority have indicated, yeah, I'll pay, I would like a little more green, but I want to pay about the same. So we've made that, most committees have made that the default rate of the plan. And I should say, the reason this never existed in New Hampshire before was that it was an opt-in program. So you had to get a large amount of people to all agree to do this. That's why it didn't exist. So they changed the language to an opt-out program, meaning that when we send postcards out to all the residents, or the eligible residents, meaning if I'm at my house and I have my own electric supply contract, I am not eligible for the program until my current contract is done. At which point you're able to opt into the program. So a mailer goes out, and if you do nothing, you throw it out, you're automatically enrolled, but you are not subject to staying in the program. You can opt in, you can opt out at any time. You can opt up to if you initially say you want the cheapest rate, and then 4 months into the program, you want to pay 100% green, you can opt up, and it just applies at the next meter read of your billing cycle. If you want to get out of the program, there's no penalty, no cost to get out. And I should have said from the beginning, there's no cost to the town budget to develop a program. So that's kind of sometimes important to know. On page 6, like I mentioned, this was the slide 11. This was the new information that I added just before. So these are the rates for those 4 communities that just launched. Their default rate is, as you can see, is 11.47 cents, with that little extra renewable energy built into the rate. The current Eversource rate is obviously 20 cents. So we feel very pleased with these numbers, especially the fact that 50% and 100% green are still substantially lower than the current utility rate. And this is the case for the most part across Liberty, Unitil, and the electric co-op to an extent. The more expensive 100% is the only rate that is higher than the default rate for the co-op. But all things considered, we've done I'm pretty pleased with these numbers. So, again, these are current market. Next year, market could be different, could be higher. This past fall, we were in an extremely high market for electricity, and then our winter was pretty warm for the most part, and the cost of natural gas fell dramatically to the point where we have the natural gas costs are the lowest they've been since COVID started. And electricity costs are tied to natural gas. So overall, electric costs have come down, which is a good thing for the town who's about to renew. Next slide. When we wanted to do that alpha test, we'd never obviously done this program before. No one in New Hampshire had. So we looked for a company that had experience that we could partner with. So we partnered with Good Energy. They are a national company, but they have a strong foothold in New England with over 40 programs in Mass, and I believe 8 programs in Rhode Island. Rhode Island was on the same timeline as New Hampshire. We obviously got delayed, and Rhode Island didn't. So they just launched Providence and a couple other communities down there. So their experience doing this for over 10 years and our pretty extensive experience in New Hampshire working with so many towns, we thought it was a good match and be able to offer the services that towns need. So again, just to recap, the program is here to provide multiple options, some low cost, some more green, to your residents, to give them options that are more secure and more reliable, where you're not gonna have your rate go up after 5 months, and obviously no cost to the town budget. So below on page 7, you have a timeline of kind of the steps that it takes to start the program. We operate under a 2-page MOU. It's pretty, if we could do this without an agreement, we would. We typically don't, but we do for this. And our MOU basically states we will help develop a committee if we need to, but we'll work with a committee to develop the plan all the way to town meeting, get you prepared for town meeting, get you approved, and approved at the Public Utilities Commission. And then at that point, you don't have to continue to work with us, but we would hope that you would. And assuming it passes a town vote, we would then start the pricing process for the launch of the program. So you've got a lot of time between now and next year. So it's not something that you would have to begin immediately, but I would recommend in the next, if interested, to start within the next 2 months probably. We'll work with a committee as much or as little as the committee wants. Keene had a full range of city staff and volunteers, so we still did a lot of work with them, but they were pretty involved. Marlboro said, "We like the idea, but we kind of want you to do it." And that was initially, but they did a lot of work as we went on. But so we're flexible in any any range of availability to a committee. So that's hopefully a fast explanation of the program, and happy to answer questions if you have them.
I have one. This is on the news tonight. Nashua?
Yes.
Just signed up.
So now Nashua has an energy manager that we hired
Okay.
3 years ago, Doria, I think about 3 years ago, who did a lot of work with this. I saw Hudson's new the program.
It's on the news tonight.
Yeah, there's a lot of communities that are offering this as a benefit to their residents.
Yeah, a lot still need town approval, but some have already gotten the Public Utilities Commission approval. We have a meeting in April with Hudson again to discuss. So, because we do have some competition, and we don't agree with how they are doing their programs. Hudson initially signed up with them, but we're still invited to talk with them again. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so we do a competition, but we're pretty pleased with what we can offer, and we provide much less risk than our competition to start this program.
And you have to be careful, so Nashua sells power also, so, I mean, they have a little bit of a different situation.
We can't
I
put a
don't-
dam.
The city, the city sells to who?
The city has a hydro power,
Oh, okay.
They net meter there.
not meter.
So
Nashua River.
a little side note on Standard Power, we for the last 8 years have developed a group net metering hydro program. So we work with 30 hydros across the state. The town is a beneficiary of this program, where they get a check quarterly from us as a member of the program. We used to do work for Nashua with Jackson Mills, the one over by
Nashua River.
the restaurant, Mexican restaurant.
Margaritas.
Margaritas.
Yep.
Nice outside area.
Yeah. So we did used to work with that prior to them hiring Doria, and obviously, most places don't have a full-time energy person, so when they did that, she could take over for it, which is fine. But so yeah, we're and then they've got one over by their police station, Mines Falls, which is a bigger one. But yeah, so we
The old mill areas.
but we did help them with their solar RFP that they ran a couple years ago. So we know what's going on in town a good amount. But
Ryan, on page 2, where you talk about the supply, and I apologize, I'm certainly not an authority on this stuff, but where it says the supply of energy, the sources, you can choose. Now, it's my impression that power comes from the grid. The grid is being fed by Seabrook, it's being fed by a lot of different sources. How can you choose the electricity?
so you can choose the who provides you the power. So instead of Eversource supplying you the power, it could be supplier Constellation, it could be Direct Energy. So because of the New Hampshire being deregulated, we have the ability to get power from a different provider, not just the utility. So I think that's the main explanation of that, but also, depending on how much renewable you want, if you do build a project in town, you can sleeve the power from that project into the program. So you can actually have local power coming and being directly included in your program. You can also purchase the greenness. So the energy market and the renewable market are two separate things.
Okay.
So the hydro facility in Nashua produces power, and it also produces what's called a renewable energy credit, a REC. The REC is what makes something green.
Okay.
So
And that's marketable, correct?
yeah, so for these programs that are buying that have 50% and 100% options, that means that you're buying a certain amount of renewable energy credits to meet that mark. Now, if you have local assets that you want to have contribute to your program, then you can buy the RECs directly from that local project. Some people care about where the power comes from. So if you have projects in town or local to New Hampshire, you can assuming depending on how it's built and if it's a PPA or who owns it, but in general, if you're starting from scratch, you could likely use that, both the power and the REC part in the program.
Very close to Litchfield. It's actually within, I believe it's within the town of Londonderry, up by the Stonyfield yogurt place. There is a small natural gas generating station.
Cowpine, or
I'm not
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
I'm not, well, is it feasible for a town, for instance, given a source of power, to build something like that?
So, I would say yes. What you're alluding to maybe more microgrid like.
Okay.
So again, not that we have been involved with this in Nashua. I know at one point talk of a resilient zone, and that's obviously something that community power can help lead to down the road. Finding a place in town where you can build solar. For Nashua, they're fortunate. They have their police station and ice arena. They've got I think a megawatt of solar on the ice arena. They've got the hydro dam just down the river, so they could make a resilient zone there where if power goes out, that area stays up. People can go. So could you, if you had space in town, in theory you could build something that might be big enough, but it would be a big undertaking. There's more smaller scale options that you could potentially look at that could also help contribute to a community power program.
Is this tied into Reggie at all?
No, so that's the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. So that helps fund the amount of money available for renewable energy projects in New Hampshire. And I know it's every year they always legislators always try to kill it or decrease it, and New Hampshire's already last in New England in anything energy related. And so it hasn't made our job easy. We've been battling for years to get net metering expanded, and only last year it finally got expanded from 1 megawatt to 5 megawatts, but only for schools and towns. So the town could build a 4.99 megawatt facility and use it for net metering, or group net metering. But we've been obviously fighting for everyone to be able to benefit from it. But we'll take the victory when we can get it. But yeah, it's
Is there any flexibility with respect to the opt-in, opt-out situation there? I'm fundamentally opposed to opt-out programs.
I understand that tends to be a potential issue with towns. It's written in the law that it's an opt-out program, so you would have to go and argue to change the law back, but then by doing that, the programs didn't exist before. So I think what I would say is that when we launch a program, we will always be, our goal is to always, we won't launch unless we're lower than the default rate. And if you do nothing, when that postcard gets sent out and you do nothing, like I said, you're automatically enrolled, but you would be enrolled into either you could set it to the cheapest rate option. So anyone that does nothing just gets the cheapest rate, which will definitely be lower than the utility. Or you can set it to that, I want that little extra green, but still lower. Most towns have done that. But again, that's your call. And then you'd only be in for a month if you absolutely didn't want to stay in. You could opt out. You can go and opt out immediately if you wanted to. And we'll have that option available after the launch of the program on our website, where you go to the website, you click on your community. There'll be the ability to either opt into a different rate within the program, or to opt out altogether. And like I said, there's no penalty, no fee for coming and going. So if you want to just time the market and let's say the Eversource rate does fall below the program rate, the goal is for there to be savings. We can't guarantee that there will be savings, but as you've seen in some of our charts, we've done pretty well historically versus the utility, and almost always over the course of the contract term, the customer wins out. So if there is a chunk of time where the default rate does fall below, you could opt out for those months and go back to the utility until the utility goes back up in cost, and then you could opt back in. So it's very flexible and meant to be as easy as we can make it for people.
Who does the meter reading and billing?
Eversource.
Eversource still does it?
Yep, nothing changes. You still pay your Eversource bill. The only thing that changes is instead of it saying Eversource for your supplier, it'll say
Generation line changes, but the distribution part stays the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the one thing we can't change.
Correct, they own the line, so you can't do anything about it.
And that's the.
That was not
infrastructure.
I'm sorry?
My concern is maintaining the infrastructure, never so
Yep.
is responsible for that stuff.
Yep. So there, by law, even if you change your supplier, by law, they still have to maintain your lines, and that's something that like they have to do.
But most utilities were happy to get rid of the generation when they were able to.
Yeah, most suppliers and Eversource has come out and said that supply is not where they make their money. They make their money on transmission and distribution. So that's why they were pushing for the Northern Pass, and any big projects that they can get their hands on is something that they would love for them and their shareholders. So supply doesn't really bother them if people drop from their supply portion.
Any other questions?
I just have a comment, that the opt-out was one, the delivery was one, so thank you. I think maybe Litchfield's at a point Or maybe a community power committee is probably just gonna be needed in general. You know, not just maybe the town buildings, but strategy.
Yeah, electricity,
And
water.
take this up as, you know, something to go with, to start looking at. I just think we're there at this
So I
point.
think generally especially in any municipality, you'd see an energy committee look at things like even the school project that's going on. So when you look at solar projects, you really need to be able to do your homework. And you really should work with experienced people that, because your savings can be really good and then not so good. So when you have an energy committee, they can look at a wide variety of issues within the town. And there's nothing to say that you couldn't have members of the town and members from the school and members from, volunteers, all working together for the best interest of everyone. Because I know that Nashua did some really great solar projects. But then, some others that were, just okay. They have, some on their high school now.
Yep.
But you really need to be careful.
Because as the rate falls, the payback's not as good on the project.
Which, yeah, so right now with the default rate being so high, most projects that were built a couple years ago are doing well.
Yes.
With their whatever scenario their pay scenario is, but and I'll say this to you guys as the town's consultant. Anything energy that you want to talk about, we're already your consultant through the electric contract. So anything else is just what we offer. There's no extra cost or anything like that. So if you have solar projects that you want another set of eyes on, we're always happy to help out. So
Could you take a swing by the middle school? Never mind.
I've heard that there has been talk of doing projects for one of the schools, but that's about all I know.
We've heard too.
Okay.
That's a whole nother subject.
There may be a project, there may not be a project.
Okay. We helped do the Conval High School in Peterborough. We helped do their project, and right size that project so they can maximize what they get behind the meter, and we'll run the RFQ and RFP process. We know we work with a lot of these solar companies in New Hampshire and in the area, so I'm sure Revision you may have talked to or know of, and we work with them all the time, so they do good stuff, but there are other options as well. But yeah, we're happy to help if we can. So
Well, you do it with private firms too? Private firms as well, large firms? You work with them too?
yeah, school, town, commercial, industrial.
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to. Like Hitchner just put in a solar panel.
Yep.
A huge one.
Yeah.
On the slope there, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think that was about a megawatt.
Yeah. And I remember seeing it going in. I looked at a lot of them. Yeah, this wire.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. I grew up in Wilton, so
You know what I'm talking about.
yeah.
That's where the ski slope used to be.
Now, you mentioned being able to opt up to different programs.
Yep.
If you opt up to something and decide you don't like it, are you able to opt down, and is there a penalty?
Nope.
Just month to month.
Yeah. So if it was like the middle of your billing cycle, if your billing cycle is March 14th to April 14th, then you want to opt up to in during March 20th or 21st, like it would, you wouldn't see it immediately. It would apply to the next cycle. But yeah, you have that flexibility to make those changes. And also important, we have one fee. It's 1/10 of a cent that is incorporated into the contracts that you would sign prior to launching. Other than that, we work and take on any risk from the beginning to town vote. If it fails a town vote, we don't get paid, and we understand that and take on that risk. So there's not much commitment from the town at that point until really just signing the electric contract. So that's our fee. We've been open about it to everyone that asks. So I believe that's the same fee that we have for the NRPC group. So
1/10 of a cent per kilowatt hour.
correct. 0.001. Yep.
That's what my fee is now, right?
Any other questions, comments?
So, again, I just don't know if we need an exploratory committee to maybe just run these numbers and, look at
That we
it.
need to discuss.
I mean,
I agree.
out of the gate, it's a no-brainer when you look at that.
Yeah,
You're
know,
saving,
but
right? But you have to go back in and look
the
at everything.
memorandum of understanding and, that kind of thing.
I can provide a copy to you, Kim. Again, it's 2 pages. It's really 1.5 pages and half a pages of just of signature, but it just states that we, Standard Power, would work with the committee to develop a plan up until town meeting.
So if that process was started, and say we've got into warrant article or whatever, and we didn't want to go forward with it, would that be a penalty?
No.
I'm just saying they could explore it.
Yeah, definitely.
I would
I mean, it
say,
seems to have a lot of upside to it.
right, and as quickly as, before we know it, we're into budget season,
Yep.
and we're in budget committee, and then it's town warrant. It
Yeah, let the town
doesn't feel
decide.
like much time, actually, when you
Almost
look
by
at it.
July, you have to figure out what you're gonna do,
Right.
because August on, we're so busy.
So we have for Wilton, Swansea, Keene, and Marlborough approved theirs in 2022 for their town meeting. Keene's different because they're a city, so they have monthly city council, but the other 3 approved at 2022 town meeting. Wilton approached us in December of 21. We started in January of 22 and got them approved at their town meeting that March. So
Wow, that's quick.
I wouldn't recommend doing that. We met every week, and they were pretty involved. We're right now working with Deerfield for 2024, and we're gonna do 2 times a month, starting in April. And with the goal of having mostly everything done by August, and then that gives us enough time to get their plan pre-approved by the Public Utilities Commission, hopefully and have everything wrapped up by Thanksgiving, so that all we have to do at that for next year is just town meeting. So that's something to consider. We have the ability to move quickly if the committee is willing to, but it's not a bad idea to give yourself a little more time. So that's what I would make as a suggestion, but.
Okay. Sounds good. Anything else?
Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Sorry if
all
I
the
took up too
information.
much time.
Oh, not at all.
Well, you talk a little slow, but we're fine.
Thanks, Ryan, we appreciate it.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you very
Says
much.
the silver-tongued devil.
Yeah, no kidding, huh?
Next, we have Diane Plansky, Litchfield Community Garden Lease. Come on up and join us.
What?
Hi, everybody.
Hi there, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm here as the Secretary of the Conservation Commission, who started a project back in 2021 to try and provide a community garden for the town. We have a piece of land that William McElwain reached an agreement with Monadnock Land Trust to manage that land and keep it healthy. At that time, he also gave an easement for the town of Litchfield to use that land for agricultural and trails. It abuts Parker Park. It's in between Parker Park and the larger piece of Normanton Farm, that's also managed by the same group. Agerian Trust came in and assumed the responsibilities of Monadnock Land Trust, and that happened right as we started to make this agreement with them. So it caused a weight issue. We did do some meetings with Agerian. I did go to the paperwork signing party that they had down by the river, and they assured us that they were ready to go. They liked the idea. So we thought we were a go. I invited you all to come. Kim, you weren't quite with us at that point, but I think everybody was able to come. Maybe not. Yeah, you were there. Yeah, I think you were all, everybody on the board at this time was there back in 2021 when we toured it, and I was able to show you my vision of that land and what it could be used for. The southern part of the area of land is a couple of acres. The southern part of it would be used to plant crops. We had some interest from people who wanted to grow hops. They wanted to grow wildflowers and pumpkins. Ms. Flint does so many pumpkins in Halloween. She was hoping that she would be able to plant pumpkins there. So we already had 3 people that definitely wanted a portion of it. I had an idea of expanding the GMS pumpkin contest, scarecrow contest, to have it that over in our garden. And the land used to be used by a teacher who taught it at Griffin Memorial School named Florence Center. She used to bring the kids over for natural science study, and she would do all kinds of things about the plants that were there, how to garden, how the Indians used to use the fish from the river to enrich the soil, and it was well loved by residents that still live here in town that were little kids at that school in GMS and really enjoyed her and the way she approached learning. And of course, if you get a bunch of kids outside, they learn a lot quicker sometimes. But so in that spirit, I wanted to do the middle of the garden as a center garden for Florence Center, and I hope to name the garden for her for the love of agriculture and natural science. I also wanted to have, there's a thicket of trees that turned out to have some thorns, but we'll work that out. That would be for, I can just see some people sitting in the shade of that area in some nice big Adirondack chairs made at the high school for that purpose. A few picnic tables and an area where the kids could swing on a primitive looking swing set. Really basically just a couple of swings and a very old looking, but safe and stable swing set. Somebody else brought up some old logs could be used as an area that they could jump around. And then we would have a couple of areas where either handicap access, senior access, kids access. There would be a few raised above ground gardens for them to use as well. So hopefully getting some school participation over there as well. We got to the point where we had a lease, and then at that point Troy Brown left, and it was in contention with as far as discussion. When William McGowan gave us the easement on it, it is usable for us. We provided the lease to give them some comfort that if anything happened there, that our town would be able to cover any issues. So then the light of my life arrived in town, Ms. Kim Kleiner, who I went in and said, Kim, I'm going crazy here. It's been 2 years now. I want a garden. Can I have a garden? And Kim said, let there be garden. So she dealt extensively with the lawyer of both, our lawyer and the Monadnock, Agerian now Land Trust, to get a lease together that we could live with and they could live with. And we now have that lease. So I'm really hoping that you guys find it in your hearts to sign the lease tonight, and that we as a town can go forward into this beautiful garden. I don't know how much will happen this year, but I have to start all over and getting people excited about it again. So what do you think?
Sounds wonderful.
Florence,
All good things take time.
Yeah, this one did.
Florence Center, huh?
What do you think? Was she mean to you, Bob?
Isn't that your grandmother?
She was my aunt.
So she was totally mean to you
I
then.
thought it was your.
Great aunt.
Great aunt.
My grandmother's sister, yeah.
It's been a teacher.
Yep.
You got a
Teacher
high
in
ruler.
library.
Good, that's when things were easy.
We used the ruler worked.
Was she the librarian at one point?
Librarian for 60 years, yeah.
You got it.
Wow. Be nice, nice thing to be able to put out there for her garden. I'd love to see like seed swaps and
We'll get
those
some
kind of
pictures
things
for you.
happening there.
Well, I'm happy to hear
Lawrence,
we got to
that'd be
this point.
awesome. I'd love that.
We know the clan.
I've talked about it for a long time. It would be nice to see a couple pictures of her.
Did the blueberry bushes survive?
I don't think so.
That's a shame.
Yeah, I'm kind of upset about that myself.
Is there gonna be water?
Plugged water, yes. So, both Tyler Garino, who has his own landscaping business in town, that he's a really good kid and has done a lot of work with Tim's Turf. He's my land guy and he's done a lot of the neighbors and stuff. People have been really happy with them. He helped me a lot when we planted the bushes as well. And he said that if we run into a situation that he would help us get water in there. So that would be great. So we would be able to do that because we were lugging, myself and Kathy Lemire, and a few other residents were lugging water to wash, to
Strawberries.
the blueberries, to
Blueberries,
water
yeah.
the blueberries. And we did keep them, and I'm hoping, nature will prevail. And if not, I'll ask Ray to
Would
come
the
down.
source of the water be the brook?
It would be. We're also, as part of this project, are gonna be installing, before you were the building inspector.
Before me.
Yeah, that.
Well,
way back.
Yeah, Roland Bergeron, sorry, I'm getting older now. Roland Bergeron had an account that left some money to build some bridges down off of Parker
Parker
Park.
Park, yes, there's about
And we would
17,000.
extend, I don't have this on the nice little slide that they did, but, all right, so you can see here this little orange circle. Can everybody see that? No. But
Wrong piece of paper.
there's there's a long, long line of land that goes down to the river that we'll be able to access a lot of, so that we'll be able to build some bridges, and all of a sudden Parker Park's gonna have a new facelift and a longer loop to walk,
Yep.
which would be really nice as well. So we're consolidating, are gonna be working with Rec a little bit on that portion of it. And actually Rec had said whatever you need, so Chris Burns is supposed to be my contact there for the garden.
Is there any thought to having a dog enclosure?
Absolutely not.
Oh.
Dog parks, in my opinion, are a liability in so many ways.
Okay.
Because unless you put somebody there, and unless you have acres for those dogs to work on, the land becomes destroyed extremely quickly. If you
Okay.
go to the Hudson one, it's really kind of a
believe
mess.
you.
Okay, yeah, it's not something I would put
Diane's
it.
wheelhouse.
Well, dogs are my thing, and that's something that if it came up at Rec, I would definitely come and speak on that. It's something that, we have a couple of dog parks around us, not necessarily always happy stories. So, yeah, no, not at this time.
Will they be allowed on leash and whatnot?
They'll be allowed on leash, and if they're good off leash, they'll be allowed off leash if they have total recall.
So part of Argarian's
Single
concerns
fertilizer.
were hazardous materials. That was really the clause that was kind of tying us up. So we worked to develop, with Diane, she developed a code of conduct that the residents that are going to garden here will sign. And the Argarian was happy to take that code of conduct after they reviewed it in replace of that hazardous material section of the contract, which our legal counsel could not accept. Because when we look at use of hazardous chemicals with Primex, the town's not covered against that. So, and obviously we couldn't police every minute what would be brought onto that property. So the residents will sign this code of conduct.
It's
that's
an
been
organic,
developed.
it'll be an organic garden.
Yeah, and they'll be giving all the resources, so, the code of conduct I included with the lease for you to review, but
Kim
I
was
think it's
great
very
help with
fair.
that. Kim was great help with that too. She had done the legwork to look at other communities and what they were using for their community gardens. At this time, we're not gonna charge anybody anything to garden there. We're in startup form. We may get 15 lots out there at some point. We might say it's gonna be $5 a month or $10 a month or tithe to the food pantry. I mean, we really are limited by the moon and our imaginations and how we consolidate this into the town, what we provide.
What's everybody thinking?
Sounds good to me.
I'll make a motion, we accept it.
We have a motion by Mr. Lynch,
Second?
second by Mr. LaSalle's. Any further discussion?
I think it's a great idea.
All those in favor, Mr. Leary,
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's,
Aye.
Mr. Lynch,
Aye.
Ms. Queenan.
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 500. Thank you
you
for all
guys.
your efforts.
So much, I can't
Thank you
believe
too,
it's
Kim, for
actually
everything.
happening. Oh, thank you, Kim, so much. Really appreciate it. Always a pleasure to see you all. Thanks.
Good to see you. Be well.
I love veggies.
I should have brought you flowers, but I'm more worried about the storm coming tomorrow.
Oh, be safe.
Just don't lose your phone there.
On that note, I'm gonna leave.
It's going to be fodder for life now.
Peter, are you watching the phone for her?
Nobody worry about
I
it.
usually ask her if she's got your packet. Okay.
Good night, Diane. Good night, Peter. Be well. Night, guys.
Yes.
All right, next we have the Corning Farm easement for New Hampshire Fish and Game. Ms. Klein?
So this is an easement that they have asked, the owner of the Corning Farm at River's Edge is entering into this easement with New Hampshire Fish and Game. It was important to them that you saw it and that you approve of it, and they would like that the board signs off on it. But it really is a protection of wildlife in this picture that I have given you. There is some wildlife that they are concerned about, and the owner has said they are not building here, so they have no concern over giving an easement to New Hampshire Fish and Game, which will actually back up to some of the conservation land
Okay.
that we have as well. So it really is in the town's best interest.
It's a
as
good
well.
one.
It's along the river. It's
It
adjacent
is
to the river.
adjacent to the river.
And what will this allow Fish and Game to do?
They're going to monitor this wildlife, and I can't remember the name of it, because I said, actually, really?
Not a rabbit.
It's not a rabbit, it's like a snake
That
or a
snake that's
fish.
out
It's
on
a
the-
snake?
Oh, is
Snake
that
that
the
we pointed-
hoghead snake
yeah,
or
that
something?
one.
I'm out.
It's a picture out in the hallway.
I'm not going to look,
I'm out.
but
Yep, I don't do snakes.
yeah, it's gonna, they go in and they monitor this species, New Hampshire Fish and Game.
Good.
So I know they established a rabbit habitat across from the old town hall.
That's for the cottontail, right?
Yes.
And now they're all over town,
And now we have quite a few rabbits.
which makes the Hawks very happy.
I
And
have
the fox.
hundreds in my backyard in the city.
And you,
Really?
the city is
Hundreds.
full of them.
Hop around as soon as I drive in my driveway, all you see is these bunnies hopping all.
The old saying is true about rabbits.
We don't know where they came from.
My wife and I were sitting on our front porch, and it was like dusk. We saw 8 rabbits. We counted 8 rabbits in our front yard.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? Now you don't see them.
Is that
I
fine
see their
line?
tracks, but I don't see too many of them. So they could possibly establish some sort of a habitat down there along the river for
Snakes.
something.
And more rabbits.
Depending on what is already there.
Yeah.
But I do know it's wet. It's wetlands and it has, so Mr. Attorney Sullivan, actually drafted the easement on behalf of Corning Farm LLC. And they have spoken to conservation, so, I have confirmed with Jason Brennan that they are in favor
Okay.
of the easement as well.
Are they gonna allow, people go look for snakes and stuff like that out there?
I didn't
I know
ask,
Steve's
but
a
if you'd
good
like
pro,
to,
I'll not be there.
I'm out.
Yep, I will not be there.
You can't be afraid of them.
They don't hurt you.
your word for it.
Is that considered private property once Fish and Game?
Okay.
It's just an easement, so.
It's just an easement.
Just an easement?
Yeah.
Residents
Yeah, it's not a big
walk
deal.
it.
Because I see the path down there, and I was wondering if they were trying to go down near the river, you know?
I mean, the area of development, it's too wet to build
Right,
yeah.
anything down there to begin with, which the owner knew about, but, I think any time that an easement can be placed on land by the river, and we can ensure that it's not built upon or
Yep.
used for some other purpose. it's
Could we at some point expand the conservation area into that easement, I wonder?
Well, I think one of the reasons conservation was probably brought into it is their Moores Falls
Yeah.
right next door,
lots
so they, New Hampshire Fish and Game and the Conservation Commission work very closely together, so.
Okay.
So the public can walk on that land, is what I'm hearing? It's
Well,
just
it's
an
private
easement?
property, there's just an easement for Fish and Game.
Just for Fish and
Almost
Game?
like when
Okay,
Eversource
that's what I
has an
wanted to
easement
know.
on someone's
Okay.
property.
Thank you.
And I apologize, there's not a motion there, but you should probably make a motion that you
I
don't.
think
private-
if Mr. Moreau wants to do this with his land, I think more
Right,
power
Reggie.
to him.
Yep, I agree with him.
So
Thank you.
move.
Motion by Mr. LaSalle's,
Second.
second by Ms. Queenan. All those in favor, Mr. Leary,
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's,
Aye.
Mr. Lynch,
Aye.
Ms. Queenan.
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries
Really don't have
500.
much to say about it, though.
No.
Next, we have the New Hampshire DOT request. Ms. Kleiner.
So, we received this request, from New Hampshire DOT. It's really a three-part request. And it's something whenever a municipality, deals with DOT for grants, or either applies for grants, receives funding, they get this request sent to them. I have looked back and you have received it in the past. The single audit, Ms. White and I are discussing with the auditors because we don't believe we'll hit that this year. We haven't expended any ARPA funds in 2022.
Two, okay.
We will in 2023.
Mhm.
So we believe next audit cycle will hit that single audit requirement. The second part of the request, was for us to review some maps that UNH has developed for DOT. That map includes the Class 5 highways that they want to know if we've gotten rid of any, and of course, that's on our town warrant. So again, we'll have to report that, and thank you to John Brunel for going through their lovely site to download those maps, which was quite a process. And then the third part of it is updating all the municipal officials. So it's just a form to fill out, updating, and giving our contact. So we'll take care of it, but it came into the Board of Selectmen. I wanted you to be aware.
Yep, there
you.
it is right there.
All right, we have Nashua Region Electricity Supply Aggregation Program. Ms. Kleiner.
Great night to lead in with
I know.
Ryan and then into this. So
A lot of electricity tonight.
a lot of electricity.
Another
so-
power guy.
You have participated in the NRPC RFP process for electricity for at least 5 years is what I've seen. They contacted me, wanted to know if the town was interested in going for 2023. I actually contacted Ryan. I didn't know if this interfered in any way, if you decided to go into the community power. It does not. These are our town accounts. Our NRPC will be issuing the RFP shortly. So they really needed a decision, and I let them know we were meeting this evening. They did provide me with some information, which I included there for you. From 2012 to 2022, over $2 million for all of the communities. has been realized in savings for Litchfield alone. Over $81,000 has been realized in savings to what you would have spent for the default rate. So
Yeah, I
I
remember
think
this was in front of us last year.
NRPC does an excellent job with their RFP process. I certainly don't think that as a town, we could do any better than they can. So I would strongly suggest we sign up for another year.
Ms. Queenan, do you have anything to say about?
I do not. I don't know if our school systems are in here. It doesn't look like. It looks like just Mason did the school system.
No, we asked that question last year. We
did.
went, beat that one around for a while to see if they wanted to get part of it to do it in.
Right, we didn't hear anything.
They have their own deal.
I asked again.
Right.
And they did not sign up.
Okay.
Okay.
It's a lot of money. It's worth their money. We paid them, huh?
Yep.
We don't pay them a lot of money, NRPC.
I say we, $81,000 in savings, we do it again,
You got it,
especially when rates are at, 22 cents, 20 cents, whatever they're at,
temporarily.
default rate. So,
That's a good note to send to the budget committee, too.
that's right.
It's a good savings. I would make the motion that we re-up for another year.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Mr. Leary, second by Mr. Lynch. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Mr. Leary?
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's?
Aye.
Mr. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Queenan?
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 500.
Anything to save the taxpayers a few dollars.
I don't believe it. Next, water feasibility analysis contract. Ms. Kleiner?
Kicking it tonight.
Yeah, I'm
So
happy this one's here.
I am too. I think this is,
Worked hard for this one.
so, as we know, many towns have undergone this, most recently Londonderry. We're still waiting for the results of Londonderry's study. Londonderry's study was actually funded by a grant through New Hampshire DES. And Weston and Sampson is their contractor. And from what I understand, they'll be presenting shortly to Londonderry. This is the same contractor that worked with Hudson.
Hudson, yep.
And they really are the experts in water when it comes to southern New Hampshire. They've worked extensively. They know Pennachuck inside and out. As Selectman LaSalle and I have realized over the past couple months with Senate Bill 169, we really need to understand what the infrastructure in Litchfield, what the cost basis is and what the value is, so that you can make some decisions on behalf of the residents of Litchfield.
Thank you.
I've looked at utilities fill out what we call a PA 83 every year when we're determining their assessments. I've looked at those. Unfortunately, because of House Bill 700, which offered utilities a declining value over 5 years, some of that has gone down. You've also had some infrastructure that's been added in Litchfield, which is on the bill of St. Gobain. To that note, I received some news from Pennachuck that the residents in the Hillcrest area, who have been waiting patiently to be hooked up, I was originally told when I joined in October that it would be by this spring. They still haven't even gone out to RFP for the construction.
Then you have the supply chain on top of that.
Right, so you're looking at well over another year by the time you get an RFP back and they negotiate a contract and then they deal with the supply chain. But those, again, there's a lot of issues going on right now. We've seen some wells recently that didn't test at a significant rate now test positive for PFAS. So we need to understand with all the different pieces, we know the 2 wells for Hudson have been taken offline. We know Hudson is in some conversation with St. Gobain. We really need to understand exactly what infrastructure we have within Litchfield and what the value of that infrastructure is. And what's the best way to make sure that the residents of Litchfield get safe drinking water at a rate that they can afford. And that's really what this contract is all about.
Okay.
Have we had any residents that have taken advantage of that program for filter systems?
Point of entry?
What's that?
The point of entry system?
Yes.
Yes, so we've had a couple of residents actually inquire to us, and we have pointed them to New Hampshire DES. When I spoke with a gentleman last week at New Hampshire DES, he said he was working with 2 or 3 residents. We don't know who they are, but it is a process that now when they contact New Hampshire DES with their results, right? So something comes back positive and they contact New Hampshire DES because they need to get that bottled water number, which St. Gobain, WSB Holder provides, the contractor for St. Gobain. New Hampshire DES walks them through all of these options.
Could the people here on Hillcrest be candidates for that?
The project does say if you tested positive in the past and you have not yet repaired your system. So I have to believe that they could, as long as they haven't already acted and absorbed some cost, I have to think that they would be eligible.
So the fact that they have been utilizing bottled water would mean, A, that they have tested positive, so they would qualify. I think we should get a letter out to those people that you're not gonna get city water for another year, and, oh, by the way, once you get city water, you're gonna be paying a real high bill. Why don't you take advantage? You're lucky. You can take advantage of this point of entry system and not have to pay a water bill.
It's worth, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would behoove us to get a letter out to, like, Rocky Hill, Shirley Way, Hillcrest. I don't know if there's other,
I believe the health officer, Mr. Blackwell, has a list of residences that have been impacted, because the test results are sent to him. So we can look into some of those files as well and make sure that we have the streets.
It's a good idea, Rich.
Yeah, I
idea.
think we should do that. And maybe we could somehow facilitate that with, what is it, DES?
Other options.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to help with that.
Okay.
Because, I mean, in a way, I mean, they've been putting up with bottled water since the beginning. It's a lot of grief. And if they could have a point of entry system, that would be a nice reward for them. But they have to take the initiative to do it.
They do.
So, what I'd like to do is see if we can get a letter out to them to that effect. And, let them know, hey, this is something that you could do.
Yeah, I know the gentleman at New Hampshire DES was very, very helpful. It would be interesting to see, maybe we could get an informational night with the residents and ask someone from New Hampshire DES to come down and actually talk about the program
Yeah.
and how it works,
Yeah,
and facilitate that kind of meeting
Yeah.
face to face.
have we heard from any of these people? There's just one household that I've dealt with in the past, in facilitating them getting bottled water. But have we gotten any feedback from other people?
No, I think, they got on the program of receiving their bottled water
Yep.
and it just goes on, right, until,
Yep.
an ad knock is notified that these people have been hooked up. The one family that did contact me, I finally, received their bottled water number for them.
Uh-huh.
But it seems like it's a process where you test positive, you let DES know that you have tested positive and you send them your results. They contact WSP Golder, which is the contractor for St. Gobain, and you get a bottled number and you received your bottled water.
They don't
Until
talk
what
about
end?
the other
Until
part.
you're hooked up, but
But-
hookups aren't happening.
Let's see what we can do, because that would be a tremendous benefit for those folks.
Promotion it.
to put together a program and get DES down here and facilitate, as much as possible, getting them on. I know there's a disabled veteran that's part of that too, who, that's part of that, and it's an older community. I think those houses were built in the mid-70s. For the most part, they are, well, it doesn't matter.
Similar.
But they're very, I suspect that there's quite a few senior people that are in there. So we need to help them out every way we can.
I'll work with Mr. Blackwell and get a list together and touch base with you.
I'd be happy to help you with that, assuming I'm still on the board.
I do, I think some of the concern is that this contract's not cheap. But it's needed. We have some money in unanticipated revenue that we have received from the state. Thank you for the pension reimbursement on the pension costs. The Weston and Sampson would not bill us until the project was complete. It would take them probably a good 6 months at least, to work on the study. There's a lot of gathering of information, and some of that information you have to, rely on other entities to provide you, so whenever you're doing that, there's.
But the good
sometimes
part is our
delays.
system's already mapped, so that's a lot of the work's already done for them from that regard.
Yes, so they have, from doing the Hudson and the Londonderry stuff, they have a lot of information about Litchfield already.
Yeah, the water comes in and out and goes to Hudson.
Yeah. So they have to know our system.
Yeah, they know it.
It's wielding through, so. All right, so we need a motion to approve the expenditure of these funds.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Weston Sampson for $75,000. Source of funding will be 2023 unanticipated revenue.
We have a motion by Ms. Queenan.
Second,
We have a second by Mr. LaSalle's. Do we have any further discussion? All those in favor, Mr. Leary?
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's?
Aye.
Mr. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Queenan?
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 5-0-0. All right, impact fees. Ms. Kleiner?
I got next the report from the trustee funds.
Yeah.
I got that one after impact fees.
I don't have
Yes.
anything on it.
No, you are right, there's nothing on the selectmen's, so the impact fees was tabled from your February meeting.
Are we continuing to table them?
If that is the will of the board, then,
You guys just had a meeting the other night, planning board on it, or is that?
That's for March 21st.
All right, so why don't we wait till after that, right?
Should we send an email to Jay, though, just to make sure? Because it's supposed to be the Albuquerque Ave signage. and impact fees. Do you want me to send him an email just to make sure? I haven't seen a planning board agenda,
For Albuquerque,
but it's supposed to be, what he said was gonna be March
Yeah.
21st.
stop signs?
Yes, he did say
What
March
they're gonna do on
21st. I
Albuquerque
do know that they have, all of the
Federal-
information that they have
speed
requested
bumps
from
out.
us,
Mhm.
has
They're
been
actually federal
provided.
school.
Okay.
It's a lot of information
Is.
to go through, so,
So do we want to push it to the
Um,
27th or the meeting after that?
With the
Do
black
you want me to
and
send an
white.
email to Jay
And we can just figure out when we're going to put it on the
and find
docket.
out? Yeah.
right, yeah,
Okay.
That's all you need.
All right, let's wait and see what comes back, and then we'll figure out what meeting it fits best on.
okay.
Perfect. All right, so we'll skip that, and we go to the February report from the trustee of trust funds. Ms. Kleiner.
So I have to apologize, I was
To blow it up a little
actually
bit for you. Hold on.
reviewing some paperwork, and I should have been providing this to you monthly, and I have to say that, it is provided, to Ms. White and I. So this is the February report.
I don't think I've ever seen this,
I've not seen it in 4 years.
and I haven't seen it in 5
it's
years. so-
very
Job
handy, though.
description.
Wish we
Thank you
did.
for sharing it. It's nice to see something new.
And I mean, it's healthy. It's a very healthy balance in most of these accounts. I think when everything that has been obligated out has been moved, Ms. White and does an excellent job
Mhm.
in doing that. So it is good for us to see what's in the Public Works Expendable Trust Fund and the fire vehicle. Of course, those have warrant articles.
Yep.
So we'll see where they are after town meeting and what gets approved. But it is for your information, so that.
Thank you.
The $80 in interest on $1 million plus is pretty slim. Now, I happened to participate this past summer in a subcommittee that dealt with deposits made by municipalities to the state. Are these funds held in the state account?
No.
So these are like in a bank account?
Mhm.
Wow.
That's why banks are doing so good.
Well,
Well, it's
not
gotta be
in
liquid, right? So you have to
California
be able to get
and
to it.
not in New
Right,
York.
it does need to be liquid, but I would say, and of course, coming from the city, which has a lot of funds, you should shop around every once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, if these are just in a bank account, I mean, even the state has accounts that are made for this sort of thing that are very liquid, but you get a much better rate than this.
It is a sad return.
What's that?
It is.
It's a sad return.
Oh, yeah, I mean, but it's like, what do you get on your savings account,
Yeah.
Up until quite recently, rates have gone up, but for the last 5 years, it's been like 0.1% or something.
0.01.
Nothing. Yep.
So $80 on $1 million,
Yeah. M&T Bank's not giving us a lot.
what bank?
M&T, it says.
M&T used to be People's.
I check with the state and see if they have an account. I know they have accounts, but I think there's an account that's made for this thing, for this sort of thing. It's very liquid, and it's not a huge return, but it's somewhere around 4% or something like that. So, I mean,
Sounds pretty good.
and it maintains the liquidity
Yes.
that we need.
Yeah, that's the big thing.
So the generator is working.
Well, that's good.
Tested and ready to go for tomorrow.
I wonder if they exercised it under load.
Hmm,
That's the big question.
It needed a new battery.
yeah,
so-
Which you'd assume.
yeah. Eric Gibbons is pretty good,
He
I'm
is.
sure he
And
did.
Eric was testing it, so.
Good. He's always done the
Eric
work on
will
that.
test it.
He's always done the work. I think he actually installed that too.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing.
Former CB.
Yes, won't hold that against him.
All right, next we have the town administrator report. Ms. Kleiner.
So we did, the department heads met, we have a group of department heads that are working on the purchasing policy. They're gonna give it a run through, give us their ideas, which I'll bring to you, and then another group that's working on the personnel policy.
Okay.
So I wanted to really get some different ideas, and I think our department heads are wonderful and have fantastic ideas, so.
In the purchasing policy, we really should define what a department head is.
Yeah, so personnel policy, I think is one of those fluid documents that really needs to change with time, right? And we've run into some different scenarios this past year that you might not have ever run into before. And so some of those changes, I know that, Ms. Briand and Ms. White and Mr. French are taking a look, and I think that's three excellent people to take a look at
I was
that
speaking to the
policy.
purchasing policy, because in that we use the word department head, who can sign off on purchase orders and so forth.
Yes,
I think in that we need to define a department head.
How about anyone who runs a department?
But we have to look and make sure our boards, commissions, and committees is the chairman and department head, so that's correct. So that's the part we gotta go, because we've been
Commissions and
acting at
committees,
times that they are.
right, so I think you need to split it up into the town portion and what's a department head, and then have a separate paragraph for what actually you're granting as
Who blesses it?
authorization for a commission.
Bottom line.
And a commission doesn't, there's no one within a commission that has authority on their own.
Correct,
They
it's the
only
commission
have-
as a whole.
Right,
Head of the.
but you're right, it has,
We just gotta get a little
Caught
bit
us a
cleaner, I
couple
think, in that,
times.
yeah.
Went to prison. Remember?
yes,
This was like
so,
10, 15 years ago.
and I know that, you know, in speaking with,
You know,
Kevin Brown and
Horace.
Mr. Mellon, there's been some other ideas that have been brought forward, so I think
Oh, good.
I think we have a good group of people working on each, which will have some different ideas. So back at the budget process, we talked about capital expenditure request plan and putting together, that's what we call the SURF. We met, we worked through and developed a whole list of all of our vehicles. You know, right down to what their blue book is currently, when they were purchased. And now we're going to meet in 2 weeks, and we're going to actually put together conditions to those vehicles when they would need to be replaced, so that we can kind of build a plan for you folks to look at and be able to estimate what you need for funding and when.
Okay.
These things always remain very fluid, because you never have as much funding as you need to live up to the plan. But it does also require you to look at it every year and make decisions on, based on condition and things of that sort, on what to move forward.
And that should probably tie back into the CIP.
Yes, and we'd like to have it to bring to CIP, and also because we know it was something that budget really wanted
Yeah.
to see. They wanted to see.
Ms.
that
Douglas will be very
exercise.
happy to see that.
I was contacted from the town of Hudson regarding the ambulance contract. So they have put me on notice that they will want to start negotiations, and they're going to let me know when. They wanted to know, which I found a little odd, when our fiscal year ended. But I wanted to ask as to who would be negotiating that contract, who the board wished to have involved.
Anyone signing up?
Oh, I thought, didn't Troy always handle that?
I actually think Frank handled it for a long time with Troy.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think Frank
Yep.
and Troy did
Yeah.
handle it, and I know Doug is interested.
Okay.
I know that both Ms. White and I are interested for different reasons.
The devil.
This idea of the billed and not paid coming back to the town, that's an issue. We gotta
Yep.
be able to deal with that. So we've been looking at some contracts other municipalities have. But is there a member or members of the board that
Could you check on something for me? Both my wife and I have taken rides in an ambulance in the last 6 months. And as far as I know, we've never gotten a bill. So,
Then you're on the list.
so could you check to see if I'm on a list? And let me know.
It's cheaper to ride the back of a pickup truck, I've been told.
And I think that's part of it. I mean, right, we're not, so we understand that there's privacy issues to some extent, but when you're asking the town to pay, we also have to ensure that our residents aren't paying a bill that maybe wasn't received
Received, yeah.
by somebody.
It would be very easy for Hudson to say, well, let's just build the town. You know, they'll pay it, and assume that we're gonna pay it and not have to go through the grief of pestering somebody.
Yeah.
When in my case, I'm perfectly willing to pay whatever. I'm sure insurance paid some part of it. Maybe insurance paid it all. I'm not,
Maybe, yeah.
but, if that's the case, that's fine. But if there was a portion that wasn't paid, I don't want the town to be stuck with that. So,
Right, and I think it's, it's not always a case of someone being unwilling to pay. Things happen in this day and age, and there are always situations where someone, was away, didn't receive the bill, put it aside because they were going to look at it later and never.
Computers
There's tons
too.
of scenarios.
I get this much junk mail,
Yep.
and,
Yep.
so.
The ambulance bill was in there. Yeah, but with computers today, they just go, don't follow up.
If you could check on that, I'd appreciate it, though.
So, will do.
Personal touch is fine.
So right now, it's gonna be Doug,
Doug?
yourself, Karen.
Okay.
Good. Do you need one of us? Or do you rather bring it back to us?
We can bring it back to you, and
Okay.
if
I'm comfortable with that, you guys?
we're having any problems, you
Yeah.
know me, I'll shout.
You better believe it.
Make sure you tell them we're in a recession.
Yes, will do. I have to thank all of the staff in this building that put together the voter's guide and the town report. Those voter guides came back to us. They weren't folded in half. They weren't stapled. And they needed to be put in packs of 50. We had your whole room here with like an assembly line. There wasn't a department in the building that wasn't helping. And they were just tremendous. And we got them out in like 2.5 hours. So it was really great effort. glad to say it only happens once a year.
That's great.
You know, the town report, I think, you know, Donna did a great job working with John Brunel, who put it together, and I think, you know, we realized this year, maybe there's some things that we can do to kind of get a head start on it, so that we're not so down to the wire, for next year, and we realized maybe some things that we could change up, to put a little bit of a different flair to it. And we'll let you know about those next year, but it was fantastic. My first time ever doing either. So I'm very thankful for people who know the process.
Yeah, thanks to everybody for doing
Yeah,
it.
appreciate
Chipping
that.
in, helping the school with their portion of it, and
Yeah,
it was very, very good collaborative effort.
I have to say, I have a deep respect for Miss Flynn and all the things that she used to do, which we realized.
I got her phone number, I'll give it to you tomorrow, you can call.
The current permitting process, Mr. French and I and Mr. Blackwell and Mr. Nickel have kind of realized some maybe issues, some things that are slipping through the cracks. We don't always necessarily get the permitting form filled out and sent through the right channels, so we're looking at that. And we're gonna kind of bring you a draft of a process and maybe clean it up a little. Years ago, it used to start with the town clerk's office. It got away from that, but I don't think it's quite clear to residents where it does start now. And we're talking more like peddler, hawkers, permittings,
Those type of
permitting of
permits.
events,
Right.
things of that sort, not permitting like
Not the
your
building
building
construction is always,
permits.
that's been in one spot.
Yeah,
Those have always been outside. Police and fire, we normally have to send them there, but the forms are there. At the
Yeah.
time.
we did have a few, that we know have fallen through the cracks, and were not permitted correctly, so
Okay.
we need to figure that out, so I think we're, all of us working together. The tax deeded property at 25 Cortlandt, the health officer, and the fire department went over to the property, and they did not feel safe going inside at all. It is not safe. The health officer has written me a memo to that fact saying that it is not safe for humans to enter the building. So I've worked with legal counsel, and when we do list the property, legal counsel has given us some language. It is not going to be worth.
In most cases
They-
like that, yeah. If they wanna go in and look, they have to sign a form and say that not to hold us responsible. I've been through this before, where we get into hoarding situations. Main frame may be all right, but you got, just looking through the windows and stuff like that, say a lot.
Is it posted properly so the town isn't having an attractive nuisance or anything like that?
It's sealed up.
It is posted, it is locked up,
windows are
heavily as
covered.
well. The issue is you shouldn't enter that building without a
Scott,
fully fitted respirator. The toxins alone, would make you ill.
Kevin, go check it out.
And we also can see where parts of the structure has started inside to fall. The ceiling.
Ceilings and stuff like that, it does not go, because there's leaks in the roof.
Yeah, and there's definite,
Knock it down.
you know, animal infestation.
This is the winter home.
What do you do in a case like this? Do you burn it down?
You sell
Well,
it
it wouldn't be
as
fit
is.
for occupancy.
You sell it as is, it's not for occupancy. You may just get the land cost.
Yeah.
Okay? Or the house cost, you're not gonna
Demolish the
get.
building.
That's what I'm saying, just burn it down, well, fire department there, but
They
that's
don't
your
Need a
call.
training facility?
They don't wanna go in the
They
building
don't
and
wanna
smell
go
it,
in
then
the
I don't wanna burn it and smell it.
So what do you have to do, take it apart?
Just knock it down.
Just knock it down?
Knock
Is
it
better than burning it down, just to,
Yeah, because of the hazardous waste that's in there
Okay.
has to be properly disposed of.
but
You
either
say
way, it
hazardous
sounds like the house
waste,
is
What are
going.
you referring to?
Yeah.
Human waste.
That's not hazardous, that's biodegradable.
Doesn't sound good.
What was the family in Nashua that,
Way out on the way to Hollis,
Yeah, yeah,
the Emmons.
Damn it, Dan.
I've met 'em all.
how many houses did they go through?
I only know of one in my lifetime, but yeah,
There's a few.
you wouldn't have wanted
Emmons
to
went through a
enter in
lot of
that
them.
house.
That was the audience when you played softball, right, Robert?
Was part of the audience.
Yes.
They used to steal the balls.
Was my childhood bus driver was one.
Oh, really?
Yes.
They're nice enough people.
Yes. Very.
This had a living issue.
Spirit of Litchfield. So they do reach out when they would like to have authorization to use town property. They want to have an Easter scavenger hunt from 10 to 12, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., not 10 p.m. on April 1st, and they would like to use the gazebo for pictures. I spoke to them. I, did let them know our gazebo's still in a little rough shape. They'd actually have, one family go up at a time and just have the photographer in the gazebo, which I think is fine. So they're looking for approval of using the town.
And then they are a subcommittee of the Recreation Commission, so.
Are-
I think it sounds like fun.
What's the date?
April 1st.
And is that, so it's April Fool's Day, is that, Saturday?
This
I think it's Sunday.
It's a Sunday.
The Sabbath.
It is a Saturday.
Saturday?
It's a
Yeah,
Saturday,
Saturday.
okay,
Saturday.
all right.
I mean, I think as a subcommittee of the Recreation Commission, there's no issue approving it at all.
Do we need a motion?
What's wrong with the gazebo?
So we have some panels on the top that are actually the structural panels that hold up the side, which both Dave and Kevin Brown took a look at. They really can't be riveted back in. There's just not enough material there.
It's plastic.
Yeah. And so they are unhinged, just on a couple panels.
And the roof won't blow off, it just stays there.
Does anybody have ownership of the gazebo?
The town?
It's a town.
But I'm talking about,
Maintenance?
well, plus, wasn't Tommy Schofield involved in building the gazebo? Wasn't, does anybody know?
Don't know.
No, that was just a donated structure.
That was the Pepsi thing, right?
Right.
And, but I'm just, because the veterans group that Robert and I are working with wants to build a much nicer structure, not where the gazebo is, but more closer to the road. And they've talked about demolishing the gazebo. But my thought is that, is there anybody in town that gazebo is near and dear to their heart that we know of? Do you know of
From what
anybody?
I was told was it was the town clerk that worked
Donated.
on buying the gazebo.
Correct.
And it's owned by the town. So, I
Okay.
would check with Terry, but I think,
So there's nobody that we know of that's my gazebo.
no. When she reached out to me, about concerns at Christmas time of putting things on the structure, that's when we asked Kevin and, Dave Mullen to go take a look.
Okay. That answers that question,
And to that effect,
Be able to
we
repair.
do have a gentleman
Some brackets on it.
that is fixing the
Yeah.
sides of your building.
Yeah, okay.
Soffit, is that the
Mhm.
soffit?
It used to be parked
It's like a
over
corner
here.
board.
Um,
Is it a corner board or a
what
wood
used to
board?
be behind you, it's over here now.
Oh, okay.
They're measuring
Fascia
it,
trim
so,
above as you walk in.
Fascia trim?
yeah.
Soft would be under.
All it is fascia trim, it just blew off the edges.
Fascia, soft.
The nails don't last very long in them.
Rake boards.
Rake, corner.
Corner boards.
So they were here measuring today, and they have been very nice, and I'll get
Okay.
you the name. They're charging us for the materials only, so I'll get you the name so that the board can say it.
Okay, good.
Local company?
Yes.
Do we need to approve
Brilliant exteriors.
the,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
use of the gazebo?
What's that?
Do we have to
Do
approve?
we need
the-
a motion to do the gazebo, or is?
Yeah,
Just-
let's
or is it
make,
just
let's
an
make
okay?
a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Mr. Lynch, second by Mr. LaSalle's, all in favor, Mr. Leary?
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's?
Aye.
Mr. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Queenan?
Aye.
I am also an aye, motion carries 500
Perfect.
for the use of the gazebo by Spirit of Litchfield.
You got it.
You never did public input.
Oh, yeah. Seeing that it's 8:32, we'll open it up to public input. Are there any members of the public that would like to provide input?
It just ran out.
Seeing we have none this evening, we will close public input and move on to selectmen reports.
I did
Ms.
the same
Queenan.
thing last week.
Me first. The planning board meets Tuesday, March 21st, 7 PM here at the town hall. I will send an email to Jay Mancara tomorrow and CC you and Joan just about the agenda to see if the impact fees and Albuquerque Ave signage will be on that. Capital Improvement Plan Committee will not meet until after warrant articles. Voting. We're past warrant articles, voting. NRPC meets this, March 22nd, quarterly meeting, 7 PM, 30 Temple Street in Nashua. And hopefully we get the approval, which we should, for the $1.32 million for that intersection. So we're thrilled about that.
Great job.
Yeah. And that's all I have.
From my side, Recreation Commission meets tomorrow evening, but I will be working the poll, so I will not be there. School Facility Improvement Committee, last meeting was canceled. Mr. Leary?
Budget Committee will be meeting after the elections as well. We haven't met in a while, but usually within a couple of weeks. Any new members, say hello to them and everything. And I just take a minute to say that it's been a real pleasure with this board the last 3 years, and I think we've got a lot done. And I look forward to working with you guys again down the road.
Mr. Lynch?
I did not go to the Conservation Commission because I just flew in that day, so I wasn't in the mood to go sit anymore.
Mr. LaSalle's?
The Heritage Commission has not met. You've probably all noticed that the house on Wilson Farms is gone.
Yep.
Almost no trace of it at all, you know. And the Dark Hole Stables, you know, big changes there. But, so, we don't really have a big record of success here with, and we're very busy with sessions in Concord, so I'll be there on Thursday. And then next week, 2, possibly 3 days, we'll be in session. So, keeps me off the streets.
Okay, thank you. That concludes our public session for this evening. We do have one non-public session this evening under RSA 91A:3-2A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee or the disciplining of such employee or the investigation of any charges against the employee unless the employee affected, one, has a right to a meeting, and two, requests that the meeting be open, in which case the request shall be granted. Do we have a motion to go into non-public?
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Leary. Roll call vote. Ms. Queenan.
Yes.
I am a yes.
Aye.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Mr. Lynch. Mr. LaSalle's. We
Yeah.
are now going into non-public. Thank you for tuning in. Remember, town meeting is tomorrow. Polls are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Thank you for tuning in. Everybody have a great evening.
Be careful in the snow.